Hi, everybody. Welcome into UnAnchoredBoston.com with Bob Lobel. I'm Mike Lynch. And as always, we are brought to you by Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping and where? We're in New Hampshire, of course, and by the great George Gray, the big wheel, we call him, at George Gray's Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. They've been selling Toyotas there since they had the battle in the Lexington Green 250 years ago. They've been around a while, and they are good friends. All right, Bob Lobel, Dan Shaughnessy is our guest. Let's give him the formal introduction, and we are off and running with so much to talk about.
First of all, you guys are resplendent in your outfits today. Your free shirts, both of them had to be free. Certainly, you couldn't have paid for that, Lynchy.
This is in honor of the America's Cup many years ago.
I understand. And, well, you guys are looking great, but not as great as the Celtics. I'm not saying they're looking great, but I don't think anybody saw that coming last night. I don't know, Danny, if I didn't see that coming. Apart from the Tatum injury, I just didn't see that kind of performance coming last night from the. Well, actually, let's give the Knicks credit. They played a pretty good basketball game.
Yeah, it's a really strange situation, that series. I mean, obviously the Tatum injury will be what everybody remembers now, but it should be documented that they've lost 3 out of 4. They had 20-point leads in 2 of the losses. They had 14-point lead in the third quarter last night. They've been ahead an astounding amount of time in a series for a team that's behind 3-1. I mean, they've been ahead basically the whole series, except at the end of 3 of the games, which kind of matters. So yeah, and the Knicks played out of their minds in the second half, and they were home and they were making their shots. Bridges came up big. And the Celtics, really Tatum was the only guy really kind of playing well, which is alarming for multiple reasons, but because they're not going to have him again. And, the rest of them, this really has a bad look right now because, they might be able to come back and win tomorrow. They could maybe even win the series, I suppose, in some heroic achievement. But it feels like the whole thing is splintering right now. And, this might accelerate the breakup of the team. Porzingis is looking old and bad. Horford's looking old, and he is old. Holiday's 16 years in the league. The financial problems they've got, the obligations they have for payroll moving forward. And the window to win championships was supposed to be last year and this year. And now if that window is gone for this year, what do they do next? So there's all kinds of ways that this thing spirals, all of them based on what happened last night by A, losing the game, and B, losing Tatum for what might be a year.
Most people think it's Achilles. We haven't had a definitive word on it. Right. I don't know if you've heard much more, Danny. But
no, everybody's just going, I mean, you guys all played, you've seen it, we've seen that, that's what that was. I mean, I suppose it could be a broken ankle or something, but this the no contact element of it, and just the way he reacted and the way everyone's hanging their heads. It feels like a ruptured Achilles, and I expect that's what they're going to tell us.
Most people that have ruptured Achilles, they're not writhing in pain the way that the Tatum was. If you think back to Aaron Rodgers, they just sort of lay there and it just feels like jelly behind underneath your calf. And I'm just wondering if there might be a fracture in addition to the Achilles as well.
Well, that's a good point. I have seen writhing on this injury.
You have?
Yeah. John O'Connor from Woburn at Holy Cross. I saw that in front of my eyes. And I mean, what did Brady have? The Kansas City game.
Oh, that was a knee, ACL.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. My dad had it, and my dad was playing tennis, and he thought his doubles partner, the guy that was serving, hit him in the back of the leg. He goes, "Hey," and then he just went to walk and he collapsed.
Yeah.
I've seen other people have them, and I don't see a lot of people writhing pain. But you saw John O'Connor do that, Danny. So what we should not be doing is what we're doing, playing doctor.
Well, we're not doctors. We just play them on TV.
That's it.
But I guess the point goes back to the performance. Let's take Tatum out of the equation, who really had a fabulous game last night. I mean, he
did.
He was throwing them in from Central Park last night, and everything you can say negatively about Jason Tatum, he made up for it last night in spades because he was unstoppable last night. But it seems like, without being a basketball analyst, it seems that once again you start falling in love with the threes, and then you just got to get seduced into that kind of play, and all of a sudden you're throwing them in. You're going for it. It just seems, and they were so hot with hitting the 3-point shot last night, it almost seduced them into saying, "Oh, we can do this all night long." And then, obviously, sometimes the faucet shuts off, and the Knicks started playing pretty fabulous offense themselves. And of course, the Celtics defense was not the same as it was in Game 3.
No, and they were out rebounded pretty badly. I mean, that you could see that they're all just so far away from the basket. It really takes away a lot of the chances for offensive rebounds when you got 5 guys around the perimeter. They made 9 in the first quarter. I mean, that must be, I would think, I mean, 9 times 4 is 36. So that must be a record if they were on a 36-3 pace. So that tapered off a little bit. And yeah, you got to give the Knicks credit. They really, they earned that game. I mean, I thought they took that one more than Boston blew it or choked or let it get away.
I mean, Brunson was phenomenal, just as much as Tatum was. Brunson was unbelievable.
He was, and Bridges had that fall away was really, really killing the Celtics. It was, yeah. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they were outscored from the 4th minute of the second half. They were outscored 63-41 the rest of the way. So they're beaten by 22 points after the 4th minute of the second half, and that's not what you're looking for.
You know, Tatum was his threes that he's been making the last 2 games are Caitlin Clark-like. You know, Caitlin Clark would just basically, step over the logo and let it fly. And I said, what is she doing? Swish, swish, swish. And Tatum was doing the same thing. I mean, you don't really get in the guy's face until he gets, maybe 3 or 4 feet beyond the arc. But this is a guy you got to get in his face the minute he crosses half court.
Yeah, I mean, that it's as good as I've ever seen him play overall. He had 8 rebounds. He had 4 steals. He had 4 assists. He blocked 2 shots. I mean, it was Larry Bird-like, and the shooting from long distance was even more than Bird, as Mike has referenced. He was way out there, and he seemed to have no doubt they were going in. It was really something to watch.
It really was. Let me ask you this, Dan. Who is the next best player on the Celtic team after Jason Tatum?
Well, it's supposed to be Jaylen Brown. He was not that guy last night. I mean, Derek White's been the guy that he really never really lets him down. His shooting has tapered off more in these playoffs than I've seen in the whole time he's been here. But he always does the right thing. If you're a coach, you had 5 Derek Whites, you win every game. I mean, the guy's he's a machine. I love Derek White and underrated and that's the guy they're going to have to really help build around as this thing moves forward. He would not be anyone I would entertain ever moving because he's still young. He's a great defender, great rebounder on top of everything else.
Listen, I suppose we could talk about the Celtics and keep beating ourselves over the head. We don't know what's going to happen. We're doing this podcast on a Tuesday. It was after the Monday loss in New York, and the Knicks are up 3-1 while we're talking. So anything could happen when you're watching this. The series could be over. They could be on to game 6. Who knows? But there are other things to talk about, and I'll give you the opportunity if you want to. I wrote down a few subjects here. You can pick one. Rafi Devers, Tanner Houck, Miss Maine. We can talk about the Miss Maine contest. Sadly enough, we know that she finished 3rd. Jordan Hudson, I'm talking about. We talk about Bob Kraft's future into the NFL Hall of Fame, which seems to be all but guaranteed now. As soon as Trump makes the calls he has to make, and then we'll talk about Alice Cook before this is over. But there's plenty of topics here to get into. So I just want to let you know that we're free and easy. We can do whatever we want to talk about. If we're sitting around the bar, go ahead, Mike. You got the next one.
How about the Pope? He left out that Dan
Oh
Brown.
yeah, Bob. But they finally have a Pope Bob.
Yes, and Dan says he may have been at the Holy Cross Villanova game. We don't know for sure, but he may have been that game in 1975.
There's more research on that. We were at the same game. The Popes at Game 1 of the World Series in 2005. That was caught on Fox Video. Many of you may have seen that by now. But the White Sox swept the Astros in the 05 World Series. The Pope was stationed in Rome at that time and came back from Rome for Game 1 of the World Series. So I was thrilled to have seen that. The Athletic Center guy, Dave Wallstein, local guy out to the Pope's hometown to try to get the sports angle, and there wasn't much there. He came back with very little, and that's in today's print copy of the Times if you want to look at it. The Pope wasn't much of a player, not much of a fan. He was very involved with things that would help him with his later job, which is being Pope. Studies, Catholicism, Old Testament, New Testament, all those important things. So, but I was. And don't forget, he made it on the second day of the conclave, which is one day earlier than Shadur Sanders did. So it was a day 2 pick.
And he's not to be confused with the guy who I played against in 75, John Provost.
Correct. Interesting. The name is so similar. And Provost had the key punt return and an interception in that game when Villanova was thrashed by Holy Cross 10-6 in 1974. So, yes, I'm upon further review, I doubt the Pope was at that game because his homies are telling us he's not much of a sports fan per se, but is a White Sox fan.
White Sox fan for sure. South side of Chicago.
Yeah.
It's really kind of funny. Is
Bob,
to see
don't ever forget that now.
Bob.
First Pope named Bob.
Yeah, Pope Bob.
Yeah. Well, you guys picked the topic. I'm just going down. You want to talk about Miss Maine and the disappointment and Jordan Hudson, or you want to talk Rafi Devers, which seems to be.
Yeah, let's just knock off the Devers thing. I mean,
let's talk about Devers.
Tremendous amount of. I understand fans are mad at him. I have a hard time getting mad at him. He's being a bad teammate and he's being petulant and moody, and it's disappointing. He's got his money. So this is really a pride thing, because sometimes a guy will say, well, you hurt my career, or, I could get injured over there. I'd be embarrassed over there. It'll hurt my future earnings. He's got his money. He should do what he's told. And it's disappointing. I think that trip that John Henry made to Kansas City, number one, it's really good to see the owner get that interested in the team again. Right. So I think everybody should be heartened by that, because the last 5 years, it's felt like John barely paid any attention to the baseball operation of FSG. So that's encouraging, but it's possible that was sort of to head off an arbitration or any kind of a shit show between the Red Sox and Devers regarding if they plan on withholding pay if he won't do what he's told, kind of thing. So that might have been a litigious move on top of other stuff. And I do understand fans being angry with the player. They have every right to be. I can't get all lathered up about angry at Rafi Devers. He did this with spring training when he wasn't going to DH, and they let him pout for a week or two, and he came around. And now he had a poor first week, but he's absolutely probably the best DH in the American League right now, and he can hit. He's going to hit. He's 28 years old, so don't worry about that. And I think eventually he'll go to first base, but it's not helping the team that he won't do that now. But I've held back on just coming out with a full bash, because if you're around him, and we are a little bit, he's always smiling. I've never seen him disrespect a teammate or a clubby or the other team. He doesn't show up the other team. He's an easygoing guy, but he's got this issue about his pride or whatever it is, and it's unfortunate. I'm just willing to let it slide for a few more days and hopefully comes around that the thing doesn't crystallize. And there's also I get a lot of readers who are angry that he doesn't speak English, or that after 7 or 8 years he still uses the interpreter. I'm okay with that too. If I were playing in Tokyo or Dominican Republic or whatever, I would have that translator every day of my life if they offered that. No way I would be able to communicate in a second language. I admire Pedro Martinez, David Ortiz, guys who do it so well, so flawlessly. I don't have that capacity. I'm not smart enough to do that. So if a guy wants to lean on the interpreter, I'm okay with that. And I would just ask readers to just stop bashing the kid over that too. Being a crappy teammate, you got a case right now with this because he is, and he needs to fix that.
That's my sticking point. He's being a horrible teammate. They had a devastating injury. Somebody's going to step up and fill a void. Where's the leadership? You got the money. You've been anointed the leader of this team. I don't see it.
No, you're right. And he was one of the ones, which was good. He did step forward a year or two ago and say, we need more help here, asking ownership to go do something. And that was useful to have one of the top players with a big contract say ownership needs to start doing stuff. So they go out and get Bregman, and then he won't relocate to accommodate Bregman. Well, which is it? So that's not consistent messaging on his part either. So again, he's just not a hard guy to have around, but I'm surprised that Bregman and others aren't able to. And Cora, you're paying your manager a lot. He's great at this. He's bilingual. Cora should be able to get to him, and I expect that's where this is headed. I'm surprised Cora can't reach him better by this point because he's been with this kid every step of the way.
Everything you say is true, but this is one of the things, and you can admonish the readers and you can admonish everybody, but this is one of the things that will stick with you. If you start making mistakes, or if you start going into some slump, or you start, misstepping in any way, this will come back to haunt you. He really has put himself in harm's way, and I don't know that anybody, could sit down and say, "Hey, Rafi, you're putting yourself in harm's way by doing this. You just have to understand how the reaction is going to be. It's okay for you to be petulant and want to just not play now that you've found a comforting spot at the designated hitter. But there was a time when there was no designated hitter. What would you have done then when you were playing baseball? You know what I'm saying? This is going to stick with him.
And your point, Bob, the team's coming home Friday, so we'll be interesting how he's received on Friday. Pretty good game too. I think it's Sale and
All right. Why can't we get, what?
And the big lefty there, Crochet and Sale, I think, are dueling Friday at Fenway.
It'll be a big one. That's almost as big as it'll be sunny and blue at Fenway tonight.
Pretty good. It's pretty good for this time of May. It's good.
Yeah, and it could be just and all the attention could be shifting immediately toward the Red Sox if the Celtics season comes to a close on Wednesday night.
So that's why I just think I'll go back to Devers. He just put himself in harm's way here, and by not talking to the press, over the last 3 or 4 games. And maybe that's a language thing, whatever. I'm just saying it just exacerbates the situation.
Yeah, and they got to win some games because they're in Detroit. You saw they got beaten badly last night, and they faced the great pitcher, the Cy Young guy on Wednesday. The night that the Celtics season may be ending, the Red Sox will be having a difficult time hitting that guy in Detroit on Wednesday.
Who's the most irrelevant team in Boston right now, Danny?
Oh, it's the Bruins. I mean, that's unfortunate. And, they're always a niche sport. It's just they have a cult and good for those people who do. And they're being really taxed right now to pay those prices and support a product that it appears they're just – on paper, the Bruins have a better year than the Patriots, but there's just a lot more optimism around the Patriots than there is the Bruins because of people who are tired of Sweeney and Neely and firing coaches and none of the stuff they did last offseason worked. And, they have a pretty anonymous team once you get past Pasternak, maybe the goalie. There aren't a lot. Marchand's gone now. There aren't a lot of guys that folks know anymore, the casual fans. So it's that one's a stretch. They'll have a hard time, I think. They always sell out their building. We'll see where that goes next year with if things stay the same. There's zero buzz around the Bruins from what I can detect.
I talked to more Bruins fans this past weekend after Marchand scored the game-winning goal.
Yeah,
that they were so happy that and rooting for Florida. Now that the Bruins aren't in it, they were just so happy about Marchand. So, hockey fans are loyal. Okay, let me go back to Devers. What would you tell him if you could advise him?
They must be telling him. We need you. Step up. Be a good teammate. And They're paying you a lot of money. I mean, I'd be curious what John Henry told him. I mean, to me, they've got some power. He needs to do what he's told, and you play along with this for a while, but it's got to stop. And he was taking grounders at third all year. Why they didn't have him taking grounders at first? What's the difference? He wasn't
I
playing
don't care.
anyway.
Third base is a much tougher position than first base. I don't care what you say.
Oh, I understand that. Of course it is, but so many guys have made that conversion. Cabrera's one for now. Harmon Killebrew did it. Everybody does it.
Right? I mean, it's next to right field. You put your worst player in right field. You put your second worst player at first base.
Yeah, he can. It's just why he won't listen to this. I don't know, but I think they just give him time. They gave him time in DH and he came around. They're giving him time now, but time's a wasting because the good news for them is no one's running away with the American League East, and
True.
They're hovering 1 or 2 games over 500, and they're right in it.
So what would you tell him, Lynch?
What would I tell him? Get your ass out there, and I don't want to hear more whining. And I don't want any pity parties, and I don't want you feeling sorry for yourself, and stop being so selfish and get your ass out there. How's that?
That's good. I like it. Just spoken like a true North Shore Swampscott type of guy. The Tanner Houck. Can anybody have 2 worse outings? Most guys have maybe 1 a year. He's had 2. It's awful. I mean, that's a disaster.
I know that. Then that was bad in spring training, and they said he's just getting ready for the season, but it was happening down there. I wish they had traded him, and now the value is not the same. But he was a good candidate to trade. The guy started the All-Star game last year, and really had a tremendous year. I think that sweeper, the whole Bailey pitching method, is not sustainable in my view. I don't know whether it's too taxing on the arm, or the hitters are just sitting on it, or what the deal is. But he was so dominant, especially against right-handed hitters, and now it's messy, and they can ill afford this. Now what? They're waiting for Cutter Crawford to come up, get Buehler back. I mean, they're very spotty around there, and starting pitching, as we know, is not what it used to be. Everybody goes with the openers, and they're just cobbling together from day to day, cobbling it together, and it's amazing, given how much payroll they have, that and the pipeline of prospects does not include pitchers. I mean, Bayo is one, and that's sort of the last one.
Dan, at least we're talking about the Red Sox now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't too long ago they were as irrelevant as the Bruins are right now. Like you said, and once you get past the goaltender and somebody else, you can't name it. There's no recognizable names or faces on that team. That was the same with the Red Sox. Now the Bruins have sort of swapped places with the Red Sox. We care about the Red Sox. We're getting upset when they're giving up 14 runs to the Tigers. And we're miffed at what's going on with Rafi Devers. And I don't think that was the case a year ago, 2 years
Absolutely.
ago.
They had an interesting offseason where they brought in Chapman, Buehler. The Bregman thing was sort of a game changer. And then having the prospects come up, seeing Campbell, they're just way more interesting than they were last year. I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, it's just been dreadful since they pivoted in 2019 and became about making money instead of about winning games. But it felt to me like that changed this year, and they got serious about winning games again. They're not performing. I mean, it's just they don't do that many things well. They're very sloppy defensively still. The back end of the bullpen looks pretty good. I mean, Chapman's been really good for them, and it looks like Hendricks might be able to. Maybe he can be your 8th inning guy or something. And Slayton's not bad either. So. I just find it much more entertaining to watch now. And Bregman's been a delight, and Devers and Bregman at 2 and 3 have just been, on base, knocking in runs. I mean, really, they're producing. And Duran's having a subpar year compared to last year, so you figure he's probably only going to get better. I'd keep an eye on the center fielder, Raphael. I know he's really good defensively, but
struggling.
That's starting to brag. And Sean McAdam wrote an interesting thing the other day that he's not even doing he's not doing what he's told, which is take the first pitch. he never walks, and he's up there swinging too often. And, they're starting to just waste the first pitch, and they know he's going to swing at it, and he's 0-1 on a bad pitch. And according to Sean McAdam, like a couple times last week, he defied direct orders to go up there and take the first pitch. So keep an eye on him. He can ill afford that because they've got a raft of position players ready to come in.
I know the right fielders finally know the names of these guys. Actually, who's playing what position these days, which was it's an upgrade from last year.
Yeah.
But the right fielders, as great an arm as he seems to have, is really costing him some big runs.
Well, yeah, he had bad night last night with the Little League home run getting by him. But Abreu's, I don't worry about him. He doesn't say anything. He's Venezuelan, doesn't speak any English, but he's I like him. He was a secret Heim Bloom acquisition that no one noticed at the time. He was in the Vasquez deal and won a Gold Glove his rookie year. Came out of the gate just killing the ball this year. He's leveled off a bit, but he's still hitting home runs for him and a really good right fielder. So that's not one that I'm going to worry about.
Yeah, and people they get fannies in the seats this year, which unlike the last couple of years.
Well, and it's like you guys were saying, if the Celtics check out between now and the weekend, the Sox will have it to themselves, and it's on them to clean up this Devers mess and start winning some games. And they've already had the softest part of their schedule, so that's not really their friend because the winning 2 out of 3 in KC was good. Detroit, is probably the best team in the American League right now, so they're in the middle of that. And then they have the Braves when they come home, which is that should be a good weekend. In fact, that could be a great weekend at Fenway, especially if the Celtics check out Wednesday night.
Who went to Kansas City with John Henry and Sam Kennedy? Was there a third guy that traveled?
Yeah. Craig Breslow went.
Oh, Breslow, yeah. But they weren't allowed in the meeting, right?
No,
Henry,
and there's some, and there's you can feel it with Breslow and Cora. That happened with Heim. Heim and Cora didn't get along. I'm getting a sense of the same thing here, and which is weird. I think they were teammates at one point. Not sure, but
don't you think Cora wanted to be the general manager?
Well, I think that he sees that as his future, which is all well and good, but he's right where he needs to be. He's manager.
I didn't say he should be. I said I think he wants to be.
Yeah, well, good for him. We like him as the manager, but he's got to fix the Devers thing while he's managing. The Breslow thing, he got kind of rushed into that job because so many people turned it down, and it's been a learning curve for him, and of course he's very annoying to listen to because it's just a word salad. He says nothing and goes on and on. It's amazing.
he doesn't like Yale guys. That's what it is.
yeah,
and I can't blame him, really.
Boy.
Then you get Heim Bloom, and you get what's his name, Breslow.
Well, Theo Heim and Breslow are 3 Yale guys, so there you go.
Yeah, and you can add Tom Yawkey to that too.
Yeah,
he went to Yale.
Yeah,
and Lucchino went to Yale Law School.
So there you go. So there's plenty of reasons why you want. Except Lucchino would be the one exception, I would have to say.
Let me ask you guys this question that I keep bouncing around all over the place. Who's wearing the C for the Bruins right now?
I mean, did Pasternak pick that up? I don't know.
I thought so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's almost like, who was the heavyweight champion of the world? I mean, you always seem to know who that was. You always knew who wore the C.
Well, who's their coach? They don't have one.
Yeah, they're gonna get one. It'll be somebody you've heard of before. They always go back to what they know.
Speaking of guys that wore the C, happy 90th birthday to the Chief, Johnny Busick. They had a little party for him at the Garden.
He's a treasure. It was always great having the Chief around. It's really cool.
Yep, nothing like him.
Well, it's nothing like hockey players, true. And from that era, I mean, come on, they all, for the most part, until they become Americanized, and you start putting boards up behind all the interviews, Dunkin' Donuts boards behind all the interviews, and you have to do the group stuff. I just want to move on to Kraft and the NFL Hall of Fame and his relationship with Trump. Danny, I really think that Trump's going to be the key guy to get Kraft into the National Football League Hall of Fame. And I'm not joking about that either, because, I mean, that's the way those guys operate.
Yeah, that as we know, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is really it's the old Tammany Hall bare knuckle brawling. No one understands the rules or committees and contributors, and I don't pretend to. I try to stay tethered to the PR guy there so that I know what the cycle is. But at some point between now and the Super Bowl, there'll be names put forward, and you have to keep advancing, and then it all gets adjudicated at the Super Bowl when they make the picks. But Bob Kraft has not advanced. They've come up with other candidates, really random guys. I can't even remember their names. Guys from the leather helmet days, and instead of Bob the last few years. So yeah, I know it's really important to him, and the Trump thing is interesting that you bring that up, Bob, because he gets on these little missions, and obviously the Pete Rose thing has been a mission of his. And
that was a great piece of about Giamatti's son.
Yeah, I'm afraid that Manfred's going to cave on that, because Rob really has partnered with the gambling operations really nicely and doesn't seem to be bothered by it. And I think that he will cave and reinstate Rose. And again, the timetable now, Rose couldn't be in the Hall of Fame until 2008, even if everything goes great, if everything goes his way. It's still how long it would take for his cycle to come up before the committee. The Kraft thing, my understanding is that Belichick and Kraft will both be eligible this year, and they're in separate categories. There's a coach category now and a contributor category. And I would think Belichick, and I don't know how they get into the whole thing if you're going to come back and coach again, how that works. So I don't know. But when they do the nominating in the summer or fall, that's when we'll find out if Bob's advancing this year, because it feels like they've been very pointed about keeping him out the last few years.
Speaking of it, that word just, I hate hearing that word contributor, especially when it's associated with Bill Parcells. Now, Kraft could have been
just bring up Adam Vinatieri at the same time.
We can talk about that too, but to label Parcells as a contributor and not go in there as the head coach. Why can't I know that if he's not elected by the fans, he has to go in as a contributor. But he and Dante Scarnecchia would not contribute. As a contributor is somebody like Tracy, that was the cheerleading coach. She's a contributor. These guys had as much to do with winning and losing as the guys who
Sure.
played the game. And it just bothers me that Parcells is going in as a contributor.
And let's make the distinction that, Mike, you're now talking about the Patriot Hall of Fame as opposed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yes. Sorry about
vastly different things, but they are connected in this sense that it's pretty clear that to me that Bob Kraft, waiving all of his prior protests about Parcells not winning on the fan ballot, that they just broomed him in this year the way they broomed Dante in last year. They've always been able to just broom somebody in. Instead, they put Parcells through this process of going on a ballot up against popular players. Gee, who do you want, Bill Parcells or Tom Brady? I don't know, maybe Brady. So I mean, that was set up for him to be embarrassed and lose, which he regularly did, because there's still half the population out there thinking he tried to lose the Super Bowl and he went to the Jets and all this stuff. So there's some bad history there. But finally, Kraft did the right thing and just said, yeah, we're putting him in as a contributor. Okay. But Mike, your point is that just put him in as a coach. Why not? Just say, of course. I mean, Bob Kraft wants you to think that he invented the Patriots, and Parcells, in fact, predates Bob Kraft in Foxborough, and Kraft doesn't like that out there. So he's always tried to pretend that the organization starts in the year he buys the team, when in fact Parcells was there the year before and things had already started to turn for the better.
I just don't understand. Like, again, I'll go back to the Vinatieri thing, and I know that Mike was on the contributor thing, but I don't think there was anybody other than Tom Brady that was more important to the success of that first dynasty, if you will, than Adam Vinatieri.
Right. And so in that case, you've got the fan voting, which recently was announced, and Vinatieri was on a ballot with Julian Edelman and Logan Mankins. Only one advances to the Patriot Hall of Fame, and because of recency bias, which is what we call it, the young fans don't know Adam Vinatieri made a pretty important kick in the snow in 2002. So it's like, oh, Julian Edelman, he caught that ball against the Falcons. Great, let's get him in there. And that's what happens. So obviously, for the three of us old guys, we know that Vinatieri is more important to Patriot history than Julian Edelman, who was a wonderful part of Patriot history, just not as important as Adam Vinatieri. So Vinatieri will get in there at some point, but it's nutty that he lost that vote. So when you leave things up to the fan ballot on the internet, it's going to be young people always, and you have to live with those consequences.
Well, Mike's on the committee. You'd think, Mike, you'd be able to make a little statement. Mike's on the committee that Kraft put together, and it's an honorable group. Let's face it, Karen Guregian, Ron Borges, or who else, So you'd think, I don't know, Mike, how those meetings go. You don't have meetings, right?
Well, last couple of years I've been in Florida, so I haven't been at the meetings. I talked to a couple of people, and there's a faction of people on that committee that work for the Patriots, that write for Patriots Patriots Weekly or whatever it is, and Andre Tippett's on it. He works for the Patriots, so they're going to naturally do what Robert Kraft wants them to do. And that's something you always have to deal with. And the list is pretty public. You could see who the people are. But there are some guys and women that don't have a bias and don't have an agenda when they go in. But there are a lot of people that have an agenda on that committee.
Well, Danny, I first had to interrupt here because we have to go camping at some particular point, and this is that point where we just kind of pack up our belongings and either go back down to New York to see the Knicks and the Celtics in Game 6, or we have to just go back up north and watch Tom Gordon from the Maine Woods with Stephen King. So you take your choice, because now's the time to see a fantastic selection of travel trailers, fifth wheels, park models, pop-ups, and motorhomes at Cold Springs RV. I don't know if you're a camper, Dan. You do not strike me as a camper.
No, never.
You just didn't. I mean, you're a Toyota guy, and you do your 15-minute miles run, and all. But I don't see you as a camper. And perhaps this is something you might consider. No, I don't think so. No, you're right. I don't think I could even talk you into that. No, even going out to Worcester to Holy Cross. Go freely browse in a pressure-free environment and find the RV of your dreams. Right. We could make one called the Crusader and be happy about that. Or the Dr. Fauci, or any of the other Holy Cross greats.
Ted Wells.
Absolutely. Ted Wells. We could Cousy or Heinsohn, or we could go on and just do all Shaughnessy, or even Belichick's daughter, who coached the Holy Cross lacrosse team. On and on. And so much for that. Cold Springs, the doors are open and your family can shop with ease. Tell them Lobel and Lynch sent you, but don't tell them Shaughnessy sent you, because he wouldn't send you there, because he's not a camper. Go to Holy Cross or go to Groton if you wanted to talk to Shaughnessy or anything. You can make this a summer to remember with a camper from Cold Springs RV. Go visit the pressure-free dealer at Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire. Where? It is north of Tingsboro. It is west of Goffstown and northwest of Nashua. Go with a pressure-packed free dealer, Cold Springs, and learn more online at coldspringsrv.com. All right, my mission is complete in this regard, in that matter. Thank you very much for your attention. Mike, go ahead, and Dan, of course, knows what's coming, so perhaps he doesn't.
Throw a little bit of curveball at him. So you get to drive the Lobel Lynchy cruiser as soon as it's built. You don't have to camp, because I'm not a camper either, but somebody's going to ride shotgun with you across country. We'll fly you back, and it has to be somebody that played at some point for the New York Knickerbockers. Alive, deceased,
Well,
retired,
I mean,
active. Who'd you
I
go with?
think he can be a little boring, but I think it'd be Bill Bradley, just because of such an interesting life. Rhodes Scholar, U.S. Senator, ran for president. He's got a one-man show he's done a million times, and I've seen that. But he's a little dry. But I think if you could draw it out of him, a lot
Good
to
one.
tell. Yeah, lots to tell.
That's pretty good. Did you see the shot of him the other day standing next to Walt Frazier?
Yeah,
He had the, typical, he looked like he was in college still. He had like a button-down shirt and a sweater and,
and
Clyde
he
his
was there
squad.
last night. He was there last night too. I saw
It
him.
was.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
I didn't see Kraft last night. I saw him in game 3.
No, no.
No.
No, he wasn't there. Well, he might have been looking at some of the, he might have been over at Columbia looking at some articles about him being a scat back. When back in the day. They put the stadium is named after him, the football stadium at Bakerfield.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, it's Kraft. It's Lawrence Wien, Wien Stadium, but the field is Robert Kraft Field. So right next to Baker Field, which is a very historical
Sure.
piece of property over there. Yeah. First baseball game ever televised was at Columbia and Princeton, 1939.
Pretty good.
Useless information.
No, I like that.
You want to talk about Miss Maine?
You guys are driving the bus, whatever you want.
Well, there she is.
Yeah. I still consider Bill a friend, and I really just don't want to say anything disrespectful to him. But I'm just wondering what the heck is going on. What is going on? And I'm not alone in those thoughts. I hear it all the time.
Yeah, as in the same vein, I've always been in his corner as well. I think what he did here is he deserves so much credit for what he did, and I don't want to see that diminished for him because it was a game changer in my view. I'm just hopeful that the people who love him and are close to him and his friends and his family are making sure that everything's on the up and up here, and that he's he's a more than a grown man. He's a responsible, smart guy, and hopefully he's making smart decisions and not getting involved in a situation that he'll regret later. But I have to wonder what the folks at North Carolina are thinking in terms of this. Is this what we signed on for? It feels very sort of overly involved with Bill's partner, who in most terms would just be a partner and not a manager, a PR person, and appearing to have control over him. But good luck to Bill. I'm sure it's up to those who know him and love him to guide him through this phase of his life, I suppose.
No, that's well put. Will you or any members of the Globe go down to that first North Carolina game?
Well, we had 2 people in Miss Maine, so I think that's an indication.
Really?
Wow. We did. Yeah, Mark Shanahan and Nicole Yang were both there. So, I would think that's kind of a big draw, that game. It's a Monday night game, I think. It's kind of the college opener. So, yeah, I would expect I'm sure we'll be there. Sure.
So this really wasn't a subject of curiosity for the gossip columns until that CBS interview, and then it just kind of took off when she
that was a setback for them, I think, in every way, and it brought a lot of attention. It just got, it was after that the whole thing became kind of a punchline, Saturday Night Live and the nighttime comedians and that sort of thing. And you don't want to be a punchline ever, especially at this stage of your life after you accomplished what he's accomplished. And that's why I worry about his legacy.
I mean, he's not the first older guy to go out with a younger woman. I mean, that's
Yep.
well documented. But it was, I guess, the magnitude of his persona that really, as you know, was fodder for the gossip columns. But I think that CBS, as she interjected and became known as his manager, was more the touchstone than anything else. I mean, I wish him good luck. You know, I know a lot of guys say good for him. You know, but on the other hand, I know what you're saying, Dan, about people now think in some way she might be taking advantage of him, but that's up to him. That's their life. That's their personal issues, and I want no part of it and no part of advising him in any way, shape, or form.
You can tell none of us want to jump in
Yeah.
any more than we already have,
Right.
and we hear it all the time. I think that was well put by Dan. That I hope the people that are closest to him look out for his best interest. Put it that way.
Yeah.
What else we got, Bob? Let me take a look here.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit.
How about our good friend running the marathon, Alice Cook?
That's exactly what I was going to bring up.
And that story written by Kevin Paul DuPont was absolutely one of Duke's best pieces of work, and and then her giving it a shot and had to go to a hospital on the way while as the race was going on. She was dehydrated and took it down by the finish line, and she ran down a portion of Boylston Street with a smile on her face that we've all seen 1,000 times, and we all love her and love her dearly. And oh, that was something that just tugs at your heart.
Yeah, it was quite a time here because a few of us have been aware of her having ALS for a while, and it was just remarkable to me that she looks the same. She looks great, and she's been very courageous and heroic in this thing. And I went down and spent some time hanging out, and it was a lot of fun. And I just felt it was great seeing Alice smiling, and again, Bob, we all lived it. I mean, it was always kind of fun to have an Olympic athlete in the media. I thought this is really cool. Olympic figure skater, 1976, Innsbruck, and it was always something to we could ask questions of another reporter, like what was that like, and just having that, very humble person, and really great at the job, because Bob knows 25 years I think it took at Channel 4 and did it all, and Bob, we had so many of those nights. Would be at New York for the Red Sox, Yankees, or Super Bowls, and I remember Alice went out to when Ray Bork won the Stanley Cup with Colorado. She was out there. She's got a picture of herself hoisting the cup, and
That's right.
Just I found through the help of the Channel 4 folks an interview. I remember when our son Sam was a Boston College baseball player, and I had seen Pete Frates hit a home run in the Beanpot. Mike Lynch is familiar with the baseball Beanpot, and
Yep.
and Pete Frates hit a home run against Harvard at Fenway Park in the baseball Beanpot when our son was still in high school, and the next year our son was on the team with Pete at BC, and I had written a column about this kid Frates hitting a home run at Fenway because his grandfather worked at the Globe, Jerry Delfonso, and he's really telegenic and articulate and fun, and he's local, St. John's Prep, the whole deal. So it was an easy column. It was the easiest column ever. I mean, you hit a home run at Fenway against Harvard, you win the Beanpot, and you're local, all these things. So I really enjoyed him in that. And then when our son became his teammate, it was even nicer to get to know the family a little bit there. And I remember Alice Cook being assigned for the baseball Beanpot the next year. And she came into Fenway. We all know that assignment. No one knows who anyone is. No one follows college baseball. It's a hard thing for a reporter to come in and do something quick, because instant knowledge. So Alice knew my son was on the BC team. So she came to me and said, yeah, who do I talk to over there? I said, go see number 3. He's really good. He's handsome. Hit a home run last year at St. John's Prep. He'll do all your work for you. So Alice Cook interviewed Pete Frates, and that video exists. And then thinking about what happened to both of them, Pete Frates becomes the poster man for ALS and raises $1 billion and just was so heroic at the Ice Bucket Challenge and all this stuff. And we all admired it. And to this day, John and Nancy and the foundation that they built and the legacy that Pete left behind. And then for Alice Cook to get ALS, it's just so unfair and just a gut punch to everybody. And then to see the bravery with which she has faced this, and still with a smile on her face, it gets me all jammed up. And DuPont did a great job in that story, and Burton did some good stuff for Channel 4 during the race, and I went to the Globe and grabbed up like 13 of those. No one gets the newspaper anymore, so I grabbed 13 of them at the building to take down to Patrick and Alice.
That's not really true.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the old guys, and delivered them to their home, and so they could hand them out as party favors at Halloween or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's just best Alice, we love you, and really an inspiration to all of us to be fighting this thing with a smile on your face and go out and run the marathon and do everything she's doing. So we all wish her well.
Well, and too, Mike, Dan and I have talked about this because we shared this mutual admiration for what she was going through. And I think we both were really concerned about her after the marathon because the attention that she was getting for running the marathon would just stop. And I think there was a natural concern that would be, she would just kind of feel like she was, all of a sudden, no one was paying attention to her. But that's not the case at all. I think she's really taking it upon herself and rebounded as only you'd expect it. That I don't think I could have ever imagined doing it. To see her, in a great mood, even more optimistic about, talking about a cure, talking about going back and playing golf again, and all these things that she's planning to do, and the way she's reacted to the whole thing is in many ways even more remarkable than what Dan has described. I don't see how she does it. I just don't get it. I can't imagine. I mean, I think that you can say it wasn't a joke, but I said, Dallas, I can't talk. I mean, I can't walk and you can't talk. I mean, what kind of a pair do we make? But I think losing your speech and the ability to communicate is really a devastating blow. I mean, that's why the AI piece was such an important piece to that whole story that Kevin did. So glad you brought that up, Lynchy. That was good. And Danny he filled in those blanks really well. I mean, I'm starting to tear up here thinking about it. Yeah. So then go ahead, Lynchy, take it here.
No, I mean, just a picture of her crossing the finish line with her arms raised over her head triumphantly. She's just a
no bullshit girl. She's just not going to,
Yeah.
It's just tough as nails, but also, still vulnerable.
All right, let me get that little spot in here for our good pal George Gray.
Good job, Danny.
Great job. Hey, if you're thinking about a new vehicle, go where Lobel, Lynchy, and Shaughnessy go. Go see our good friend George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years. All three of us have multiple George Gray Toyota cars, and we know that George Gray will treat you right. They're a family-owned and operated dealership that we trust, and you can trust as well. Go see the big wheel, the great George Gray at the George Gray's Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. George is probably still wearing his Tricon hat, celebrating the 250th anniversary of the shot heard around the world. And why not? He may have been in that battle, in 1775. I'm not sure, but he's a great guy. Yep, great guy.
Oh. All right, let's circle back to the Celtics and see your prediction now. As we're again, this is Tuesday. The show and this is after the Celtics lost. They're down 3-1 at the time that we're talking here, so we can make predictions that sound either smart or stupid, but fearless. So what do you guys think is going to happen? Just as we're sitting here talking today, 3 guys sitting at a bar or over lunch or whatever.
I think they'll win tomorrow. I think they'll win at home and take it back to New York. Beyond that, I'm not sure how much more I want to see, but I do think they were better than the Knicks. As we said earlier, they've been ahead like 80% of the minutes played in this series, but overall, it's very glum how the whole thing feels right now with what happened to Tatum and the way Porzingis, Holiday, Horford. It just feels like we had all this expectation for a championship, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think all of us said at one time or another, the only thing that can stop the Celtics from winning banner number 19 is an injury. And there it was last night, right before our very eyes. Don't
you think they would have lost that game no matter?
That game was over. Yeah.
That game was that right?
Yeah, they would have lost that game. By the way, I just saw this thing came over on Pro Football Talk. Bill Belichick's girlfriend reportedly received an offer to appear on Dancing with the Stars.
Perfect. Maybe the Golden Bachelor can go with her.
Oh, boy. I can't say anything else. But
I love the Golden Bachelor. I mean, I don't love the show. I love the line, the Golden Bachelor. Personally, instead of watching the Celtics, I might watch Farmer Takes a Wife. That's the other. You don't want to miss an episode of that. Danny, you did a great job. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
We love having you. As you know, this is a potpourri of everything that's going on, but it's that time of year between Devers and the Celtics and the NFL and Kraft and blah, 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 blah. And the most important part of the show was our conversation about Alice Cook. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate talking to you guys, and we'll do it again, okay?
Absolutely.
All right, Dan. Thanks so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See you on the road.
All right, folks, make sure that you follow us at UnAnchoredBoston.com.